Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about the thorny topic of healthcare and obesity in Portugal because it's recently been raised by the Minister of Health, Ana Paula Martins, as a priority in the field of health in the country. According to the Minister of Health of Portugal, it is urgently necessary that action is taken to deal with the rate of obesity in Portugal because, according to her anyway, and according to statistics, there are quite a significant number of obese people currently in Portugal. She didn't actually cite any specific statistics herself, so I had a look at the available data that I could find online, and I found a study from 2023 which basically indicated that almost 60% of the Portuguese population are either obese or pre-obese, with 23% of the population being classified as actually obese and the remaining 35% as pre-obese. Now I have to say that gets us to 58%, so yeah, almost 60% as they say. It seems high. When I walk around in Portugal, yes, there are big people, obese people, there are chunky people around. 58% though, it's a bit more than what I thought. Maybe I'm just in the wrong place in central Portugal. Maybe there are a lot of larger people somewhere else. I really don't know. But in my opinion, I would like to know what pre-obese means because, in theory, anybody's pre-obese. I mean, I could be pre-obese. I'm not obese yet. So I don't know what's measures they've used to gauge pre-obesity actually, but I think that they may have used pretty broad strokes to encompass a larger group of people. If you ask me just to ballpark it, how many people do I think in Portugal are obese? I would say about 25-30%. And that's just my personal assessment. Anyway, there are a significant number of obese people in Portugal. It's not as bad as in some other countries, including in the UK or, God forbid, the US, where the obesity rate is really off the charts. But it is a problem. And because Portugal has the SNS, which is a national health service, it becomes a problem for everybody. Not just a problem for the people who have this disease, as they call it in these articles. I'm not really sure if I'm very comfortable with calling obesity a disease rather than a situation, but I'll come back to that later. But because we have a public healthcare system and people pay in through their social security contributions and their taxes to the system, basically everybody in the country who's contributing is going to pay for the treatment which is given to people for their health conditions, including of course for obesity and obesity related conditions such as diabetes, for example, or whatever may come down the line because somebody is obese. The report that I read indicated that there are about 200 comorbidities associated with obesity, including 13 different types of cancer. So undoubtedly it is a condition which has the potential to produce major health expenses for the SNS and therefore for the nation, for the taxpayer in Portugal. It's estimated that 43% of deaths in mainland Portugal in 2023 were connected to obesity, which isn't surprising considering how many comorbidities are associated with it. So it is something that, as a nation, Portugal should probably be focusing on to do something about. I agree with that. What I disagree with is the idea of Ana Paula Martins that we actually have to focus on the treatment of this disease, not just on the prevention of it. So basically what she's saying is that people who are obese in Portugal, it's not enough to take preventative measures and encourage people to have a good diet, encourage people to take more exercise in their daily life and not have a sedentary lifestyle, and basically do the things that everybody knows that they should be doing to avoid being unhealthy and obese. That's not enough. Education is not enough. Prevention is not enough. What we need treatments. We need medical procedures and we need medications to try to deal with the problem we've got now with the obese population that we have now. Now, my question there is, why can't it be the case that the people who are obese now simply go on diets or introduce more exercise into their life in order to gradually, tackle the obesity problem that they have? Why is it necessary that the SNS come to the fore and provide, operations which is what she's talking about. In 2023, there were almost 2,000 operations which people had, surgical interventions to reduce the size of their stomach or whatever in order to, help them to lose weight, or to give them drugs. Now, these would be the rather expensive anti-diabetes drugs, which have been shown to have some kind of effect on obesity as well. These drugs are quite well known. They originate in the US. I think Eli Lilly was the first drug company to actually come up with one. And they have weird and wonderful names, as all drugs nowadays tend to: Wegovy, Zepbound, Saxenda. These are the drugs that are under discussion. Currently, these drugs are not available as prescription medicines on the SNS. So anyone who wants them now has to pay the rather hefty price for them, and they're not cheap. If you look at the price in the US anyway, they're $900 to $1,600 per month per patient for these treatments. Now in Portugal, because the SNS is the sole buyer, maybe they're going to get some kind of discount on that, but you're still going to be talking about many hundreds of euros per month for each patient which is undergoing this kind of treatment. And bear in mind that 23% of the Portuguese population are currently considered to be obese as of 2023 statistics, and therefore you're left with a situation where quite a lot of people, basically let's call it 2.3 million people in Portugal, might be eligible for receiving these kind of drugs and or other treatments, including surgical interventions. Now, of course, I'm not saying that absolutely everybody who's considered obese in Portugal would rush out and get one of these drugs because, this is a magic bullet and it's going to help them to lose weight. Of course not. There'll be people who are a bit reticent about it. There'll be other people who just are happy with their body shape. And there'll be others who perhaps can't get it or don't want to use it because they don't have a BMI high enough to qualify for use of the drugs. At the moment, I think it has to be a BMI of 30 or above in order to use these drugs in the US anyway, according to what the FDA approved the drugs for. But still, I think there will be significant numbers of people who go to get these anti-diabetes drugs because it represents the quick and easy solution for many people. Oh, you're fat. You could change your lifestyle, you could change your diet, you could do more exercise. All those things are hard. People don't like hard. People like easy. If you've got a headache, you could do all kinds of things. You could take a hot shower, you could have a sleep, you could massage yourself or get somebody to massage you. That would be even better. There are solutions to having a headache. Do most people do those things? No. Most people take a headache pill. And I think that would be the case for a lot, maybe not all, but for a lot of people who are suffering from obesity. When I say they're suffering from obesity, we should probably say people who have made themselves suffer from obesity, because I think it really is a self-inflicted condition. But anyway, the idea that of the 2.3 million people who are obese in Portugal, a significant percentage, let's say half, would want to get on these kind of drugs, I think that is very conceivable. And we have to ask the question, can we, as Portuguese taxpayers, bear that expense? The SNS has already become this unwieldy, huge beast in Portugal, which just absorbs more and more of the state budget every year. Can we really afford to put ourselves as taxpayers in the position where we're on the hook for this? I personally feel that it would be a very poor decision to encourage surgical interventions or the prescription of these anti-diabetes medications, which are very, very expensive, to deal with obesity. My attitude on this is very, very simple. Obesity is something which people bring about by themselves. They make poor choices, dietary choices, exercise choices, and lifestyle choices, and that accounts for almost all the cases of obesity. Sure, it's not hard to find somebody who's fat out there who'll say, oh, it's not my fault, I'm fat, my aunt is fat, my mum is fat, my grandmother was fat. Yeah, okay, so they're trying to put like some kind of genetic component on it, and I'll admit that rarely, very, very rarely, they're could perhaps be some component of genetics in the rate of obesity. Yes, there could. But for the vast majority of people who say these kind of things, it's just a false claim. It's just an excuse. It's something to, make them feel better about themselves. If their whole family is fat, there's probably a reason for that, and that's got something to do with their habits, their lifestyle, and their diet as a family, rather than their genetics. That's just my opinion. I have nothing but admiration for people who are obese or seriously overweight and take the right kind of steps to resolve the problem through dietary control and through exercise habits and lifestyle changes. I think that's fantastic. I watch a YouTube channel, a guy called the Portuguese who lives in central Portugal like me. He's a bit further north than me. And it's a wonderful channel. Everyone should go and subscribe to it. And during COVID, he got a bit porky, He didn't do so much exercise. He maybe ate quite a lot and he got quite big. I think he reached about 120 kilos. And you know what that guy is doing? He's not whinging about it or going to the hospital or asking for some anti-diabetes drugs. No, he's walking 20,000, or actually more than 20,000 sometimes, steps per day. And he's controlling his diet, but he's not, only eating rice, water and vegetables. He's eating a variety of things like ice cream and stuff. He's still doing that. He's just doing the exercise. He's putting in the work and he has brought his weight under control. And he's not a retired guy. He works, he teaches, he has 2 kids. He does a lot of stuff. And if someone like that can do it, and he's had immense success. He was losing like 8 kilograms a month. I think he's well under 100 kilograms now. And I just want to say kudos to him. I think it's fantastic. He is an example case of what everybody should be doing. Personally, I walk 20,000 or more steps per day anyway, but that's nothing to do with losing weight. It has something to do with keeping myself healthy, but it's nothing to do with losing weight in my case. I go walking in the forest because I like it, and that's pretty much it. I also do half an hour of rowing, and I do some weights and push-ups and that kind of thing. I do this because I know that I'm responsible for my own health. In terms of my diet, I don't eat a lot of unhealthy stuff. I like unhealthy stuff. I like pizza. I do. I had pizza yesterday, actually, first time in a while. I like chocolate. Haven't had it in a long time, occasionally. If you want to be in good shape and keep yourself in good condition, you have to take action yourself. I think it's very, very unreasonable for people to go through life and say, I paid my taxes, so I should get everything from the SNS because, that's the way it should be. It doesn't matter if I'm a responsible person, I should get the treatment. Not in my opinion, you shouldn't. If someone is not being responsible for their own health, if they're not taking good care of themselves, if they're stuffing their body full of basically toxic food, high-calorie foods, and they're not doing any exercise, and they basically let themselves go to seed, whatever, it doesn't matter what age they are. We usually reserve that phrase for, people who are over a certain age. But I've seen people who are like 16 years old who have let themselves go in a major way. If you've let yourself get into that condition, whose fault is that? Well, I think it's your fault. And tell me, please, why I should pay for it. Or why everybody should pay for it through their taxes. And I have the same attitude to other people who have terrible, terrible habits. People who are heavy smokers or just smokers. People who take dangerous drugs like heroin or cocaine or something. People who drink to excess, alcoholics. In my estimation, none of these people, obese people, alcoholics, smokers, drug takers, people who do these incredibly unhealthy and dangerous activities, should they really have the same right to take advantage of the health service, a national health service, such as the one that we have in Portugal, or indeed the one that we have in the UK, as people who don't? And this is perhaps one of the big differences between my kind of political philosophy and what you'll find even with political parties like Shaga, because they still do believe in this. They still support the SNS and the right of everyone to have treatment. I don't. I think that we should have private medical care, and the reason that I support that is because it's going to be cheaper for me. And it's going to be cheaper for all of the people who are doing the right thing. The people who are actually keeping themselves in decent physical condition and don't have all these bad habits, they can go to medical insurance companies and they can demonstrate that fact and they can get cheap medical insurance. In the meantime, those people who are huge, or those people who are smoking all the time, or those people who are drinking all the time, they won't be able to do it. They'll have to pay huge premiums and they'll effectively be punished financially for their behaviour. In my opinion, they should be. You cannot go through life with such an irresponsible attitude and, just live your life any way you want, put yourself in any kind of condition, and then expect other people to pay for it through taxes. If you don't expect other people to pay for it through taxes, then you can do whatever you want. I don't care. It's not my business. You have your own personal freedom to inflict whatever kind of ill health on yourself that you wish to. But if you expect society to pick up the tab for what essentially amounts to your misconduct, then I think it's fundamentally unreasonable and highly selfish behaviour. And that is why I object heavily to suggestions by the Portuguese Minister of Health that the SNS should be picking up the bill for prescribing anti-diabetes medications to people who are obese. I just don't think that that should be the case. It is a step in the wrong direction. It's a very wrong signal. It indicates to people that, you can do whatever you want, and at the end of the day, the health service will give you a pill and then you'll be back to normal and you can just continue eating all the potato chips and all the shit that you want to eat. I really think that that is a bad message to be giving people. The focus needs to be on prevention. Yes, and the health minister got that right in terms of education. That should be done. People should be educated about what a healthy lifestyle is and how to avoid obesity. But they also need to be educated about how to reverse it. And I would support programs which encourage people to do exercise, for example, that the government pays for in order to reverse obesity. I think that that's more reasonable, also be much, much cheaper. If people want to help themselves, then I can, kind of justify in my heart that we should pay something towards it, because they'll go on to be more productive citizens, have better jobs and generate more tax revenue, etc., etc. That's fantastic. But if someone just basically wants to continue with their unhealthy lifestyle and just take medicine at the expense of the state in order to make it better, I fundamentally cannot accept that. I think that it's atrocious that someone should want to do that, and the state should not condone this kind of attitude or condone this kind of behaviour by facilitating a situation whereby people can get access to this medicine for free on the state, and it's just basically their conduct has no consequence. I believe that people's conduct or misconduct should have consequences. And if you put yourself in this kind of situation, you should live with the results of it. To me, that doesn't seem to be a wholly unreasonable point of view. I would also add, just in closing, that I think that the Portuguese health minister and health service is probably under pressure from the manufacturers of these drugs, as health services around the world always tend to. It is in the interest of basically the pharmaceutical companies like Eli Lilly, who have created these drugs, to mass market them and get them adopted on the health systems of as many countries, European countries with social welfare systems anyway, as possible. Basically, there are a lot of fat people in the world. Absolutely. And therefore, it's a huge marketing opportunity for these companies. I don't blame them for trying to do good business, but I don't think that the SNS should fall for it. It's something that I personally feel the country should take a stand on. We should not only oppose the idea that the pharmaceutical industry is trying to push its drugs on us, but I think we also have to, take a very close look at social responsibility of the individual citizen. I think it's very important that we kind of nix this idea, nip it in the bud, the idea that individuals can do whatever they want and they can, lead the lifestyle that they want, they can be as irresponsible as they want, and they can put themselves in whatever kind of health condition that they basically end up in as a result of their bad behaviour, and then other people have to pay for it, the state has to pay for it, ultimately you and I have to pay for it through taxation. This idea has to change. Only by doing this will we actually be able to bring the SNS budget down, because that is what we should be doing as a society. We shouldn't rejoice when the SNS budget goes up. We should be happy when we need to spend less on healthcare because we have a healthier population. And personally, I think an enormous step in this direction is to make people responsible for their own health and get away from the idea that the state is always there and always going to be there to hold your hand and make everything better no matter what you do. Alright then, well that brings us to the end of this video. I'm sure it will be very controversial, especially in a country like Portugal, which, like the UK, has a very solid belief in the idea of having a national health service. Obviously my views are a bit different. I encourage people to share their opinions in the comments, and I will see you soon in the next video.